Guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Apple Guy. Now, in today's episode, I'm going to be going over everything that was announced at WWDC 2017 in June. So, we're going to first take a look at macOS High Sierra. So, as you can see on your screen, it's just a security updated version for Sierra. So, they did a nice little title here saying your Mac elevated, with a picture of the landscape of High Sierra, which is located in the Sierra mountain range. And here we get a brief little summary of what High Sierra brings, and it's just really refinements over Sierra, making it more reliable and better and faster and less security bugs and things like that. And with High Sierra, we get newer technologies. For instance, more Metal 2 API, which is a API architecture that uses more of the graphics processor and the CPU to the fullest potential for the system, so that your applications load faster, your documents come up quicker, your video editing processes go very fast. Loading times for everyday application, battery life doesn't take a big hit, and things like that. So that's what the new Metal 2 API architecture. And with that, Apple finally announced their Apple file system. So their Apple file system is basically designed around newer Macs, which are 64-bit architecture, which is everything that runs macOS High Sierra. So it's like a 2009 and up type of computer can run it. It makes the files, the kernel, the OS itself, and everything just on that SSD pretty much reliable and faster. And it's more safe and secure because it automatically has built-in encryption. So if someone gets a hold of your flash, SSD flash inside of the Mac, they won't be able to get the information. They would have to really crack through it just to get a hold of it. And pretty much Apple said that this is really built for their all-flash Macs. So if you have a computer that has a traditional hard disk drive, Apple file system won't be automatically activated on that computer because it was written for the newer SSD-based computers that they're selling now. For the older computers that only have the hard disk drive and you don't want to replace it, they're still going to be running the macOS Journal Extended partition profile, which is under the hierarchy file system that Apple made back in 1998. So this new file system that they're making is a replacement for the newer systems. And with that, Apple did announce a new HEVC video codec standard. So it's a H.265. So it pretty much takes your 4K video and other type of videos that you film in that format, and it compresses it up to 40%. So you can have a higher quality video taking up less space, or you can have a lower resolution video like a 1080p compressed higher but taking up less space as well. And another thing I was talking about earlier is the Metal 2 API architecture, and now it's really taken more advantage of the graphics and processor, because before with Metal, Apple only accessed the CPU to a certain potential. Now with Metal 2, they finally tapped into the graphics card and the CPU even better. So it's just for the creative apps, the professionals, the entertainment, machine learning, virtual reality, the extended GPU support they added. That's why they did Metal 2, just so that everyone gets a better experience overall when using their Macs. And with that, Apple really pushed virtual reality today. So with that, now you can use your HTC, your Oculus Rift, and other products like the Steam VR headsets connected up to your iMac Pros or your MacBook Pros, things that are newer computers that is capable with the virtual reality. So now you can do it within games, designing programs, things like that. So it's very nice Apple has taken that step into the virtual reality sector on the Mac operating system. So next up, Apple just updated some of the apps. So pretty much they just added new things like, for instance, photos. They just added a couple more editing tools, different ways you can organize it and things like that. With the new hierarchy standard, the HEVC video codecs and things like that they built into it. And you get more of the aperture type of video editing software built into it now. And they give you little explanations of, like, you get a more chronological order of the months, years of pictures into an album. You can select multiple photos at once now. You can do the advanced editing. So pretty much they're taking what they learned in Aperture and they're bringing it over to Photos pretty much. Now you have access to live photos in the Photos app. And the memories, you have better memories in the Photos app as well. That was carried over from the iPhone. And you can also edit out your pictures to third-party apps that are supported, like the Photoshop or Pixelmator, things like that. And they also enhance the AI capabilities for the People album, so now it can detect people's faces better and automatically put them in that folder with their name on it. That's with their new AI capabilities in the Photos application. And with Safari, they did some really big features that I'm very proud of, that Apple really has done this. They finally stopped auto-playing videos. So now if you go to a website and a video pops up, Safari would automatically stop that. And they also make something very top-notch for Safari, is the intelligent tracking prevention. So pretty much it's cross-site tracking data that when you go from different websites, it's left behind. So that's pretty much what a cookie is. It's left behind chunks of information from different websites, and every website you go to tries to backtrack itself through the IP address of the previous website and things like that to try to put those ads in front of you so that you can buy a certain product because you saw it on a website last week or a few hours ago or just a minute ago. Like something on Amazon is now showing up on a Google search and things like that. So now Apple has built in a tool where you can click it. You click the box to turn on intelligent tracking prevention, and it will get rid of that tracking data within 3 days. So it will start to block that once you turn it on, and it would slowly filter it out. So then by the time the third day hits, that old data from the first day of it being tracked would automatically be stopped at that point. And this really made a lot of advertisers, are going to make a lot of advertisers really mad that Apple's doing this, but it's a good thing they're doing it for us so that we can have more privacy browsing the website without always being given ads for what we're looking up and things like that. Other things within Safari is the reader. It's always on mode they give you, so you can have it set up so it automatically jumps into the reader so you can read it with the full text and everything like that without ads or distractions and things like that. And you also can have it bookmark your favorites tailored to you by you. So pretty much you can select it to enable the content blocker, use the reader, different size, the autoplay, camera settings, microphone location, name change, and things like that, of course. And they tuned up their API for the browsing on Safari, so now they made it faster when you're watching videos on Netflix, YouTube, Vimeo, and just browsing around the internet is much faster on the Safari browser. Now you got to remember that it's mostly tuned for the Intel chips inside the Macs, so I don't know if that has something to do with the Hackintosh side of things. You know, if some of these features will work or not with different Intel chips or AMD chips. But otherwise, just to talk about Siri, not Siri, I mean Safari, my bad, is just a much faster browsing experience. And they do compare it to Windows, but they say they benchmark tested in Windows, but Apple hasn't released a new version for Windows in quite some time. So I don't know. They might have tested that with Microsoft Edge and Chrome and things like that on the Windows side. But whatever they put out here, you take it to the value you want to take it. But I do see it on an Apple system since I use Safari much faster. But otherwise than that, now Apple is transitioning us to the Safari side of things. Not Safari, Siri, my bad. So Siri on the Mac now is bringing the whole Apple Music thing to Mac. So you can ask it what song is playing. It can be your DJ. It's pretty much carrying over all the Apple Music uh, software that's in Siri on the iPhone and the Apple Watch into the Mac, pretty much. So your songs, your albums, things like that. Siri on the Mac will now be able to do all that good stuff. Another thing with Siri, they're saying it's getting more extensive. So now what they did is, of course, they made a new natural voice. They made impressions, intentions, emphasis. So it can get a little smart to help you what you're trying to ask it, but Siri's a hit and miss. Even on the Mac and iPhones, it's going to be a hit or miss for some people. So take that also at a grain of salt a little bit with that. Another thing is Apple updated their Spotlight. If you don't know what Spotlight is, it's the magnifying icon on the right-hand corner of your Mac. It's going to be next to the Time and the Safari icon right in the middle between those two. Pretty much that. You can search everything on the whole computer through that. So now it's going to let you type in a flight number and you can just see when the flight's going to take off and things like that. And even more stuff it does as well. But it's pretty much a file searcher. So it's just adding features to connect you to the internet without going into the Safari application, which is pretty nice. If you don't want to jump in to Safari, you can just hit the Spotlight icon, type your flight in, and get the important information you need. Another thing Apple is showing us is the top hits in mail. So now you have a filter, pretty much. You can search up what's your top hits or go into the VIP section, things like that. So like if you get a lot of mail from a certain email sender or from a certain client at work or things like that, it's good to have the top hits. So it shows you what they're sending, and it's also showing what is more likely to be the same type of information related to what you want in that. And Apple updated FaceTime for the Mac operating system in terms of you can now click on the left hand side. There's a shutter button. You click that, and pretty much it takes like a live photo of it, and then it saves it to your photo library. So it's probably like a 3 to 5 second live photo snapshot of what that person's doing in FaceTime if you want to have that for your memory and things like that. Another little tweak, Notes got a little tweak of you can now pin your notes into the applications, and they give a little description of like for groceries, to-do lists, meetings, agendas. So it's pretty much doing what a reminder would do, but it's like a pinned note in there. It's just a little nice thing to have on the Mac. And with Notes, now you can take the notes with you. You can add it to a note table. So you can make a track and expense, organizers, things like that, right in the notes without going into the Pages application or Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, things like that. Another thing, iCloud. The iCloud drive is now going to work with your family members, and they also updated iCloud for the family plan, so now you can choose 200 or 2 terabyte on the computers to sync your photos, videos, documents, and more off the computer. And with iCloud Drive sharing, anyone in your family or anybody that you invite can make corrections to documents, programs, things that you give it access to that you want them to make corrections to, and things like that. And other things about High Sierra, here's the how to upgrade page. So Apple gives you a nice little description of how to upgrade. So for those that don't know how to upgrade, the easiest way you can do it on a computer that's late 2009 or later, you just go into the upper left hand corner, you click the Apple logo, you click about this Mac, and then it tells you what operating system on. If you're on Mac OS Mountain Lion 10.8 or later, you can directly upgrade to High Sierra. If you're on Lion and you can't go to Mountain Lion, then you're only on that operating system Lion. Now, if you're, let's say you're on Lion like I'm talking about, but your computer can do High Sierra, then of course go ahead and get the update to it. And of course it's a free update, which will be available in the Mac App Store, usually on their front of the page when they release the operating system. The general requirements for it is a computer with 10.8 or later, which is Mountain Lion. You would need 2 gigabytes of memory, but I advise between 4 and 8 gigabytes of memory. Even 8 gigabytes would be a minimum for this operating system. You would have to have 14.3 gigs available on your hard drive of free storage, which is, I recommend 15 gigabytes of free because of other updates and things like this software is going to have when you first install it. And you're going to need your Apple ID with some features like two-factor authentication and things like that set up. And there's some features that require a compatible internet service provider. So it's probably like FaceTime, iMessage, things like that require faster internet speed, but it doesn't mean that you have to update your internet plan to get this operating system. It's just saying if you want to use those features, you can update your internet plan, but don't even worry about that. As long as you have the computer requirements with the operating system to upgrade from to macOS High Sierra, you're good. And the RAM and the storage, you're fine. And for the Mac requirements, you gotta have a MacBook late 2009 or newer, MacBook Pro mid 2010 or newer, MacBook Air late 2010 or newer, Mac Mini mid 2010 or newer, iMac late 2009 or newer, and a Mac Pro mid 2010 or newer. So when the new operating system does get announced next June, everything that you see here listed for the minimal hardware requirements of a Apple computer with the certain years, those computers will be dropped. So for right now, High Sierra is going to be your best operating system that you're going to be on these computers listed here. And here's the other features it says that will be on certain devices. So as you notice on your right hand side, AirDrop is only available on a 2015 MacBook or newer, MacBook Pro that's 2012 or newer, a MacBook Air that's 2010 or newer, and a Mac Mini that's 2012 or newer, an iMac 2012 or newer, and a Mac Pro late 2013. Now, you might be saying to yourself, why would Apple let me download the operating system on a 2009 or earlier device if AirDrop and some things won't even be supported on that device? Well, they know for security purposes and other features that will just work right out the box, you'll be happy with. But you have to understand it's just the technical requirements of the CPU and probably the older style DDR2 RAM and things like that. And of course, if your hard drive's not an SSD, which those older computers aren't, and if you haven't updated, then of course they won't be getting those full functionalities and things like that. So here's the list of everything that's supported on a newer device and what device you need for that to work with. And of course, with the Apple file system, it says require a Mac with all flash internals. So pretty much that won't even be turned on an older computer. Auto unlock is on a Mac that's 2013 or later, and requires an Apple Watch with watchOS 3 or later, or an iPhone 5 or later. Metal 2 is only supported on certain devices that are relatively new. Time Machine doesn't matter, supported on all devices. Apple Pay, Power Nap, those things, as you can see, are certain on certain devices and things like that. But otherwise than that, if you want to get this operating system, I say go ahead and get it. It's a very stable update and things like that. And here's everything that's included. It's pretty much the same applications that you get now and the languages that you get now. And pretty much that's it for the macOS High Sierra update at WWDC. Now let's roll into the iOS 11 part. So here with iOS 11, it's a redesigned operating system for iPads mostly, but iPhones did get some redesigns as well. And as you can see here, it says iPad turned up to 11, so they're really hyping the fact that it's next generation for the iPad. You can see the control center is different. You got a new tab row at the bottom. It's almost like a Mac and an iPad should be, like a hybrid between the two in that operating system perspective, but it's not like that just yet. So now you got a files application, so you can search up all your files between on-device, iCloud, or any other cloud services that you use. That's available on iPhones and iPads. The dock is only available on iPads, and pretty much you just swipe up from the bottom, and it's like a dock just like on a MacBook Pro. You can drag an application into the dock, drag it out of the dock. You can swipe to the left, to the right with that application. You can go to the right side of it, and there's a little bar right down here. And to the right side, where these three applications are, the photos, the movies, and the notepad, Apple's operating system automatically puts the most important applications that are opened and which are recently used right on the side there. And multitask has been updated heavily on the iPad. So pretty much you can swipe in from the dock view and drop an app right near another one. And you can even do picture-in-picture and multiple things like that. And here's some more features with drag and drop between the two applications, from a Photos app to the Mail app. And Apple really has went all out for the iPads on this operating system. In the Apple Pencil, you can do markups on the on your notes and work and things like that now. You can do instant markup on the PDFs and drawings and write-ins and things like that. Instant notes. So pretty much instant notes, you can take a note right on the iPad. You just tap the Apple Pencil on the lock screen and just start taking a note, and it automatically saves it to the Notes app. And here's the inline drawings, and I can draw lines within the notes, like within a picture and things like that. And here's the PDF document scanner, so now you can scan your documents that you need to sign it with your finger or Apple Pencil, and you can print it or just email it out to the person you need to send it to. For the iPad, Apple has also added a QuickType keyboard, so you just flick down on the keyboard and it'll give you the numbers. Like, for instance, you see the top row, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. So if you swipe down on those letters, it'll go to those corresponding keys that are shown above it. Very nice. So that means Apple will later on get rid of the separate numbers / special characters tab. And Apple made a new film showing you what iOS 11 really does. And another thing, as you can tell, they really focus on augmented reality. So now it's using the iPhones and iPads cameras with certain applications to let you view planets with a planet application, or a game, or a picture app, or things like that that use the augmented reality from the cameras. And here's the Apple Pay. The Apple Pay has now been opened up to the Messages application, so that you can do person-to-person payment only to people that have a iPhone and have Apple Pay set up. And now Apple has introduced an Apple Pay Cash. So pretty much you don't even have to have a credit card set up in Apple Pay. Pretty much you can just send money to a person and you can transfer it to the Apple Pay Cash card and then transfer it to your bank or use it online and things like that. And live photo has gotten better, so pretty much they added a loop feature, a bounce, a long exposure, and things like that to make it much more fun when you're filming in that setting. And the filters, they added some classic filters and they redid the filter layout so it's not like showing over the picture. It's on the bottom and you swipe to the left or to the right to select the filter you want. The App Store has taken a big redesign, so the outside application has a different logo, inside's different, and pretty much it's showing you on the home page, which is called the Today page, of new apps that are made by developers that want to get their apps recognized, noticed, popular applications. You can read how they made it and a brief little history of it and things like that. With Messages, they added some new stickers, drawings, and things like that. Much easier way for you to do that. Siri has now been updated to be a little bit more intelligent and with the new voice and things like that. But Siri pretty much does the translations and personal DJ for Apple Music, things like that. So the translations it's still a beta, and it'll probably be like that till iOS 12 or even later. And it's very limited for what the translations does in the beginning. Moving on from that, we have the news application. So the news application has gotten smarter, so it's tying itself in with Siri in that you can let Siri automatically learn what type of topics you like to read, what news matters to you, what news is in your area that you can read, that you would love to read. And you can also do quick type in the Messages app, which Siri would place words that you recently used or use a lot and things like that, and even give you arrival times if you're arriving somewhere and things like that. Safari on the iPhone and iPad has just gotten updated, so you can now use Siri search suggestions, and Siri to pull information out of it, like calendar information, travel information, to book it on your calendar and things like that, and make an alarm for you. Apple Music just got updated for new cover albums and things like that, new image layouts and things like that. AirPlay 2, this feature lets you do 2 or more devices together, so you can play music on 2 devices in one room or have 2 separate songs play in 2 different rooms. Currently, this feature is not available in iOS 11. It might be available in iOS 12. Otherwise, Control Center, now it's customizable, so you go into the Customize section on the control panel, and you can add apps you need and things like that. And you also have the ability to add a screen recording application, which is very useful on an iPhone, especially when you're making videos with iOS and things like that. Very useful. And now you can your notifications are now on a new screen called lock screen. So if you swipe down, it takes you to the screen where it locks you out of your phone, and it just shows you your notifications and things like that. But it's not like grouped notifications of that sort, though. Apple did a new feature for drivers. It's called Do Not Disturb while you're driving. So when your phone is automatically connected to the Bluetooth or the setting is set for location, it automatically knows when you're driving and things like that. You have to turn this feature on within the Do Not Disturb tab. And Apple did update their Apple Maps to include indoor maps of restaurants, airports, and different stores. This is slowly rolling out to different places across the United States and other locations. And they also added a feature that Google Maps had for years. That feature is called lane guidance. And of course, with that, it just tells you what lane you should go in and what the exit number, things like that. Same features that Google Maps had for years. So at news, of course, it's using the Siri to learn more about what you'd like to read and put that in their Spotlight tab in the Today view and things like that, like suggestions and things like that. And of course, we went over the QuickType. And here's the new automatic setup feature, so you can hold one iPhone next to another, and it can automatically send the information to that new phone. So pretty much it does a orb, just like on the Apple Watch, and you scan it with the new phone, and it just sends over the setup information, like some content and secure information and passwords and things like that. And here for developers, you have the ARKit and Core ML APIs. And here is a list of devices that iOS 11 is compatible with. iPhone 5S and up, iPad mini 2 and up, and iPod Touch 6th generation. I just want to let you guys know really quick, as of making this video, you can tell that there's new products that aren't there when this originally was announced at WWDC. So I just want to do a little apology for not doing this video back in June of 2017. But it's a good thing I'm doing it now, because I can give you a little bit of what I think about iOS 11 real quick. It really sucks how Apple just dropped the ball with making it a fresh operating system, bugs, stability. It's like patch after patch after patch, bug after bug after bug. Every week you're always getting a new update, and then when you realize it, right now we're on iOS 11.2.6, which fixes a code in the text messaging application from an Indian character text. Now iOS 11.3 beta already has that fixed, but Apple waited a week later to release iOS 11.2.6 just to fix that bug. Then you had the time bug back in December. Then you had the A bug. And then you had the it bug, the is bug, many more bugs. And it's just like, I hope when we get to the end of iOS 11, that the last release of iOS 11 is it, and that it won't need a new update when iOS 12 comes out, because that's a very sad thing that Apple is struggling at right now with iOS 11. Because like when the last version of iOS 11 comes out, I want the 5S, iPad mini 2, and possibly the iPod Touch 6th generation, if they get left behind, to be on a stable release of iOS 11. Not, oh, a year later, iOS 12 drops in September of this year, and then, oh, security update for iOS 11 is still being pushed out. Apple, step up the game with this. Please, step it up with iOS 12. We heard some rumors about features not being announced for that. I'll make another video about iOS 12, but otherwise, step it up. Step up the game for this. So otherwise, with iOS 11, that's what Apple released for iOS 11. So with the tablets, Apple has announced iPad Pros. So on the iPad Pros, just going to go through the tech specs with you. They released a new 10.5-inch iPad Pro and the updated version of the 12.9-inch. 10.5 replaces 9.7-inch, and the color option that you get, a fourth color option, only in the 10.5-inch is a space gray, not space gray, rose gold option, my bad. And you do get a flash underneath the camera for the first time in an iPad. You get a iPhone 7 style camera for the front and the back. You get storage capacities from 64 all the way up to a whopping 512 gigabytes. The size and dimensions are pretty much the same, with slimmer bezels on the 10.5-inch and iPad Pro 12.9-inch. Cellular options is still there. You still get the same home button with a Touch ID sensor, 4 speakers on both. You still get the headphone jack. And on the cellular model, you get the nano SIM tray. And in the box, of course, iPad Pro, you get the USB to Lightning cable and the USB power adapter, and that's still a 10-watt adapter, not a 12-watt. And the cable is not USB Type-C, it's still a Type-A connector. Here's the display resolutions. The biggest changes in the display resolution is a higher pixel density slightly and a new ProMotion display, which is a 120 Hz display. So it's much smoother when going through the home screen, writing with the Apple Pencil. You get the color, you get the new P3 color gamut and the true tone display updates and that. But otherwise, the biggest thing with the display is a little bump in the pixel PPI, the pixel resolution, and the ProMotion display is the biggest thing that happened to the new iPads this year. Processor is the A10X Fusion with the M10 coprocessor in it, so it's an upgraded version of the A10. Camera is the same as the iPhone 7, same flash and everything, front and back camera. And everything else is pretty much the same with the previous generation of iPad Pros, just updated specifications on these iPads, and battery tweaks, a little bit of a percentage here and there gains in that department. Otherwise, a new thing that Apple has announced in their Mac lineup is the iMac Pro. This computer was originally announced at the WWDC event in June and was on schedule for a December release of 2017 to go on sale, and as of this year, it's fully out on sale. And otherwise, Apple updated every other Mac as well, besides the MacBook, the Mac Pro and the Mac Mini, with Kaby Lake chips, but their new computer is the iMac Pro. And the tech specs of the iMac Pro is the same 5K display, same display resolution. And chips, they're different. They're the new Intel Core Xeon W from 8 core, 10 core, 14 or 18 cores, going from 3.2 to 2.3 and everything else in between. Price is at a $4,000 start or a $13,000 max out price. The graphics are the latest from NVIDIA, from AMD, which are the Vega 56 and the Vega 64. And they have the new HBM2, which is high bandwidth memory, second generation. That is 8 gigabytes in the 56 and 16 in the 64. And there's the compute numbers and the teraflop numbers and things like that. Memory is a full channel of DDR4. So it's desktop grade ECC error correcting code memory at 266 megahertz, going from 32 gigs all the way up to 128 gigs. The SSD is a 1 terabyte pure flash, and you can go to a 2 terabyte pure flash or a 4 terabyte pure flash. FaceTime camera, first for any Mac in this lineup, a 1080p FaceTime camera, so high definition resolution in videos and picture quality. Audio, you get a stereo speaker, you get 4 mics and 3.5mm headphone jack. Stereo speaker has a built-in channel on the left and right side that's just like the iPad Pros, so it's very loud with the bass and things like that. The connection ports is a 3.5mm headphone jack, XT card slot, USB-C, and USB Type A ports as well. So you get a Thunderbolt 3, which is USB Type-C at 40 gigabytes per second, which is 4 of them. And you get the classical Type A, which is 4 and 4. And you get a first 10 gigabit Ethernet port. And it gives you other specifications for what those ports do. And the input, you get a Space Gray Magic Keyboard with a numeric pad, Space Gray Magic Mouse 2, optional Space Gray Magic Trackpad 2. Other things you get is a black lightning cable and the optional Space Gray accessory, the Magic Trackpad 2. You should order that with your device because you will not get that separately. All these accessories for this iMac Pro are not sold separately. Same wireless technology, 802.11 AC, updated Bluetooth 4.2, same size within dimensions as the iMac 27-inch, just in the space gray color. And that's all for the iMac Pro. The last new product of the day Apple released was their HomePod. And HomePod comes in either space gray or white, and basically it's a music player that runs on Apple Music Home subscription. And pretty much with Apple Music subscription, you need that. You need an iPhone with iOS 11.2.5 or later. You need to have pretty much a lot of Apple accessories and devices for this to work with. Sizes are 6.8 inches, 5.8 inches wide, 5.5 pounds, space gray or white. And the audio technology, it uses a high exclusion woofer. It uses an array of 7 horns and tweeters located around the device behind the mesh fabric. And 6 microphones for far field series, so it can hear you at really loud music volumes or really low, far away, really close. And it uses a auto correction bass chip, so it sends out a signal in the HomePod itself to detect different frequencies of the music to fix that. In the direct ambient auto beamform, it sends a signal that bounces off the walls when it sets up to know how to redirect sound and things like that. And the audio sources is Apple Music, iTunes Music Purchase, iCloud Music Library, Beats One Live Radio, Apple Podcast, AirPlay content from the iPhones, iPads, iPod Touch, Apple TV, and Mac. Here's the audio formats that it supports. Top of the device has the volume down and volume up. Touch and hold for Siri because there's a little set of 19 LEDs underneath in the middle that just shows you the Siri lights and other little lights and things like that. Wireless technology, AC Wi-Fi with MIMO support, direct guest access, Bluetooth 5.0. And the system requirements is everything that runs everything that runs iOS 11 or later. And you have to have Apple Music subscription or a full music functionality. And these are the products it supports. Price starts at $349. The CPU inside is an Apple designed A8 chip. And pretty much this product was delayed and it recently got announced back in July of this year, announced back in February. Otherwise, this product hasn't sold out. But my personal thing about it, Apple just wanted to enter something new. Let's see where it takes us. Siri needs an overhaul. Just to clear that up, just needs an overhaul. Otherwise than that, guys, hope you guys liked the video. If you have any suggestions, comments, things like that, leave it down below. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it. Follow me on my Twitter account. Go to my website. All those links will be down below and on the YouTube homepage. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.